Good afternoon and welcome to Spiritual Journey with Swamini Shraddhananda. And here we are at WXAC 91.3 FM in Reading, Pennsylvania on the Albright campus. I'm so happy and honored to be able to provide this programming for you today, spiritual programming that has to do with living a better life, a more united life, a healthier life, a happier life, and a life that has more community, more foundation, and just a deeper connection for all beings. So today's topic is going to be letting go. And this is a favorite for so many people because we are all pretty much always contemplating ways that we can get rid of things. How can we get rid of these burdens? How can we get rid of these relationships that we're not interested in anymore? How can we clean out our Facebook friend list? And so the first thing that I just like to touch base on with regard to letting go is that it's not about throwing anything away. That's probably the most important foundational understanding that a person has to have when they start exploring the practice of letting go, is that it is not about throwing things away. If you think about it, when you jump out of a plane to do parachuting, you have to let go. You have to let go of something. It's not about throwing things away. It's about putting fear in its proper place and about having faith and taking a leap into that faith. So when you're going to do something which I would consider to be a little on the adventurous side, like parachuting, jumping out of a plane, you have to let go. And that experience is a surrender of sorts. That's what all of letting go is about. It is about surrendering. It is about acknowledging humbly that I don't have all the answers. It is about taking moments of letting go of stories. It's taking moments to let go of judgments. It's taking moments to release yourself from the bondage of your ego and to release others from that bondage as well. So letting go is not about throwing something away. When you jump out of that airplane in order to, do parachuting, you're not jumping out of the airplane because you're throwing your life away. You're jumping out of that airplane because you are surrendering into your life and you are no longer allowing fear to be the guiding principle. It could be scary, and I would guarantee you that for me, it definitely would be. But the idea is that you move beyond the fear and into the acceptance. Now, in yoga, we tend to call that, on some levels, pratyahara, sense withdrawal. It's letting go of the attachments. It's acknowledging that there are so many things in this world that we are attached to, whether they're people or objects or experiences, and we attach to those things in such a way that they cause us a lot of pain through expectation and disappointment. They build us up, they drop us down. Our attachments have a way of pulling us apart at the seams. And so through the yogic practice of pratyahara, sense withdrawal, we come to understand that everything is transient. Everything is transient. And I know that on the face of it, that sounds a bit harsh. Everything comes and everything goes, and everything is only temporary. But just think about that for a second. If you really looked at everything in your life and understood that it was temporary, then how much would that free you to actually experience your life? If you knew it was temporary, no matter what foot you put forward, no matter what behavior you undertook in order to try to make it more permanent, if you just accepted the temporary nature of all things, then imagine how free you could be in your relationship to those things. You wouldn't have to hold on out of fear of loss. Instead, you could dive in and experience the wind in your face and the free fall, and then just have the enjoyment of the outcome or the concern of the outcome, because not all outcomes meet our expectations. But at least the outcome could be in our awareness in a more pure manner, in a way that it can't be if we are attached to an alternate outcome. So letting go letting go is a huge thing. You know, I was just listening a little bit online to this lecture that was being given, and the host of the lecture was saying, letting go, absolutely. Going down that Facebook list and checking off those people that aren't serving you. Going through your life and looking at those people that aren't serving you, and get rid of them. Just get rid of them. And my takeaway from that is that those people aren't there to serve me. Those people are not there to serve you. So I immediately turned that lecture off and was like, that's totally not the message of letting go that I'm interested in investing in. Instead, it's to say, maybe think about this statement. I own nothing and no one owes me anything. I own nothing and no one owes me anything. When we're coming from a place in our life which is, you know, relatively healthy and relatively stable and relatively free of some social constraints, then we can take a step back, perhaps, and we can acknowledge that, you know, I don't actually own anything, and I'm not owed anything by anybody. Nobody owes me a happy ending. Nobody. So even if you're in a situation, in a relationship where you've made vows to one another that you're going to spend the rest of your life together, that you're going to be happy and take good care of each other, even in that situation, if you come to that relationship in a mindset, this person has promised to take care of me, then you have set that person up for failure, because inevitably they will not be able to take care of you in every single moment. They can only do what they can do in order to be in relationship with you. Maybe you have another path that you're meant to follow, or circumstances that are beyond their understanding and their ability to cope with. How can we look at another person and accept the vow of, I will take care of you forever, when we know that, first of all, their body is temporary, our body is temporary, and this relationship is temporary? Now, yes, there's this whole other idea about the eternality of relationships. And yes, that's valid too, but that's not what we're talking about here, because once you go back into the eternal, you aren't concerned with the physical anymore. So we can't use that as but don't you think they should dedicate themselves to me that way? Because after all, we're eternally related. And it's like, no, that doesn't fly. It doesn't wash. Instead, you can look at it as saying to yourself, this person has their own work to do in this life, and I have my work to do in this life. And the more that I impose my work on them, the less they're able to do their work. And that is a burden. That is a burden. That is also a spiritual crisis. That is also an inconvenience and an issue. Because the more that we put the outcome in someone else's hands, the more we're setting ourselves up for failure and for disappointment, for discontent and for anger. So don't expect in your relationships for your relationships to be forever. Don't expect in your relationships for your relationships to be perfect and for the other person to always take care of you. Instead, it's talked about that we could have a different focus in our relationships. We could understand that no one is here to serve us. As a matter of fact, the opposite is true. Our purpose here is to serve others. Our purpose in this life is to be of service to all beings everywhere, humanity as well as non-human beings. Our purpose in this life is to serve, not to be served. And maybe if we come into this life with a little bit more humility about that, then what we'll find is that there's a lot of ways that we can serve that can bring such an amazing feeling of joy to our hearts, whether it's cleaning up a local park or a local waterway, or taking care of children, or supporting the elderly, or just being nice to people, and maybe being nice to people who belong to groups that are currently being criticized and dehumanized. Maybe showing people that there is still humanity, that there is still a strong humanity, and that humanity still thrives in some of us. perhaps that would be the best way that you could serve. And then what ends up happening is that the more you serve others and the healing and the health and wellness of others, the less you're concerned about your own, because you just begin to know that you'll be taken care of. If you're taking steps forward in a light of compassion and unity, then somehow you're taken care of. And you don't have to question that. You don't have to say, well, oh my gosh, where am I going to get this from? Where am I going to get that from? Those concerns might be there, but faith deepens. And in that faith, we find that everything comes around and we end up receiving what we need, which might not be the same as what we want. We will get just enough. And that's really all we ever need, is just enough. And then I can hear the voices, but what about the rainy day? What about saving for the future? What about making sure that my retirement is intact? Those are all great and wonderful goals, and yay, go ahead and make your plans. But don't forget, while you're making those plans, to be very unattached to them, because banks fail and plans change and, everything. I mean, you plan for your retirement that you're going to grow old, but, on the back of your mind somewhere, you do know that people die early. And so there's always this idea that you might not even be here for old age. So you're investing in something that may never actually happen. Can you, instead of putting so much of your thought and energy into the future, can you put more into the moment now? Can you be more present, show up in your life today? And by showing up in your life today and letting go a little bit, at least, of the future, then what ends up happening is that today looks a lot brighter. Because I'll tell you, in today's economic world, the future doesn't look so bright. I'm not really sure where my generation is going to be at by the time that we're ready for retirement, which is not too far away. It's less than 10 years. I don't know what the economy is going to look like. I don't know what the availability of medical and food and other necessary resources are going to look like. I don't know what the air is going to be like, what the water is going to be like. So if that's all I think about, I'm going to be in a deep depression in no time. So instead, I just have faith that everything will be what it's meant to be in the future, because I can't change that. Not really. I can influence it by all means. But the greatest way I can influence the future is by being present today. The choices I make today, and the way I live my life today will greatly influence the way that the future unfolds. But it won't define it. It will not define it. Because there is a huge mystery about the outcome. So to me, what's most important is being present in the now. To me, what's most important is saying, you know what? I'm going to let go of anticipation about how long am I going to live? How much am I going to have? How much am I going to collect? What's my retirement going to be? How I'm going to live my life at that point in time. I'm going to let go of some of that, because I understand that I'm not going to have a whole lot of control over the way this rolls out. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to invest in today, in this moment, in a way that builds a very strong foundation and that empowers me to accept whatever comes my way. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. It is not easy. It's actually really difficult to do. It's hard to let go of the future. But you know what's even harder to let go of is the past. Man, the past is so hard to let go of. We all have these shadows floating around in our mind, these ideas and impressions that are constantly playing back at us. And we try to shove them down or beat them down. You know, there's this game at the carnival where I think it's whack-a-mole, where you take this plushy hammer thing and you start to hit these rodents that are jumping up out of these holes. And I look at that game and I think to myself, that is like what most people think letting go is. It's like, I'm going to beat this thought into submission. And then I'm going to feel really bad about it. I'm going to just feel so bad and so guilty about it that I'm going to give it even more life. And then it becomes a cycle. It becomes a cycle that we get stuck in. So instead of trying to beat down the past and beat down past experiences and beat down ourselves for having a reaction to those experiences? Why can we not just accept the fact that the past happened? It did. You can't change it. It's already done. It's like once you sign your name on the dotted line, you don't get a do-over. Once you skip class, you don't get a do-over. Once you deny today in favor of the past, then you don't get a do-over, because today becomes the past. It becomes that which you're thinking about. And if you're allowing yourself to reside in your early childhood, your teenage years, your whatever span of years it is that you're focused on or that you're hyper-focused on, then today no longer exists for you, because it's just a retelling of an old story that's taking on new life. And that new life it's taking on is not good. Not usually. Actually, never. It's just filled with shadows and pain and suffering and a wish that you could go back and do things over again. But you can't. You cannot change what was. All you can do is change who you are and how you are in this moment. So when you find that you're existing in the past, that this moment is full of stories and regrets and resentments and going back there to what was, pull yourself forward, draw yourself forward, use your breath as an instrument. Become present in this moment and remind yourself, I'm okay. In this moment, I'm okay. None of those things from my past are happening right now. They were over a long time ago, and I survived. So I don't have to live there anymore. It's kind of like this, you have a house and you sell it. And so you sell your house, and 5 years later, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go back there. So you go back to the house and you walk in the front door, but you don't live there anymore. So the new owners call the cops and they arrest you for trespassing. A little light humor there. I'm not sure if there's a spiritual trespassing. I think there probably is. When you're trying to live in a time that's already gone. Don't go there. Don't try to live in a house that's not yours anymore. You're not the same person you used to be. You're not the person anymore who was facing those consequences and those issues. You're a person today who is facing new consequences and new issues, some of which are arising because of your tendency to live back then rather than today. The more that we exist in the past, the less we can address what needs to be addressed today. The more that you are allowing the past to control your reactions and responses, the less that we are able to be present to what is actually happening in the now, because we are so concerned with something else. So letting go of the future, letting go of the past, letting go, not an easy task. But what's even more difficult than letting go is being present here and now, allowing yourself to awaken to the specialness of this moment, giving yourself the opportunity to be free of the burden of what was and what will be. Many of our behaviors are pitted against ourselves. We have all this past experience that piles up, causes us to have expectations and judgments. And then we have these thoughts about what we can make happen in the future. Again, expectations and judgments. The more we're working from the paradigm of the past in order to cause a future, the less we're present in this moment. Being present in the moment requires us to let go of the paradigm, to let go of the model, to let go of the tendencies, to let go of the expectations and the judgments. And that's kind of like, I guess, peeling layers of skin, slightly painful. the snake shedding its skin. To be present is to just accept. And then to do your work, remembering in the heart that no one is here to serve you. Remembering in the heart that all things are temporary. Remembering in the heart that you are not going to be able to control the outcome. Remembering in the heart that in the end, what you get is not what matters. It's how much you are able to love that matters. And I know that sounds like an old cliche, but it really is so true. And if we focused more on our capacity to love, then we would find that we have less we feel we need to get rid of. We would find we have less we feel we need to let go of. We would find we have fewer rodents jumping up out of holes that we're trying to beat down. If we just allow ourselves to be present in the experience of love. And here's how you might do that. So here's just a little practical exercise that you can do today when you have a few moments. Wherever you go, no matter who you encounter, look at them. And tell yourself, this person has a life story, an amazing life story. This person has suffered. This person has survived. This person has thrived. This person has healed. This person has a whole life story. I am so awed by this person, and I don't even know them. Or maybe I do. Maybe I know them a little, or maybe I know them a lot. Their story is not much different than mine. And because we have that common thread, it might be easier for me to send them love. So I send them love. And even if I don't feel that common thread, I'm still going to send them love because I know their journey has not been easy, because I know my journey has not been easy. Every person that you come across today, just think that. You don't have to go through the whole thing. You could just say to yourself, I send you love. Our journeys are similar. I'm sending you so much love. I know how hard it's been. I know how difficult it's been. And I know in this moment, it can be a little easier if we rest in the light of love. So if you look at it from the perspective of love, what we might find is that being present is really not that hard. The complicating factor is the ego. The ego doesn't want us to let go. The ego doesn't want us to release. The ego doesn't want us to stop arguing. The ego doesn't really want us to love too much unless we're getting something out of it. The ego wants us to have a story. The ego wants us to find the fault. The ego wants us to see that no one else is as special as we are. No one else has what we have. No one else has suffered like we have. No one. So the ego works really hard to keep us separated. The ego is the complicating factor. And a person can fool themselves into thinking that they've done the work on the ego. I suggest to you that none of us have completely. No. Nope. So you can stop telling yourself, oh, but I did that work years ago. That's great. That was years ago. You're trespassing. You're in the past. Bring yourself into the current moment. What you did in the past is not so important now. Because now you are faced with another set of consequences, another set of circumstances, another experience. And your ego is going to react in another new and exciting way that you haven't even begun to think of. Because your ego is tricky that way. The ego says, oh, no, hun, you worked on me already. You worked on me, remember? You got it all down. No worries. So it's now the 2:30 hour. And this is Swamini Shraddhananda Saraswati and the radio show Spiritual Journey on WXAC 91.3 FM in Reading, Pennsylvania on the Albright campus. And today we're talking about letting go. And right now we're talking about the ego the complicating factor of a very sneaky ego, and how the ego keeps us attached. And then when the ego sees that we're being compelled to release something, it tries to define the terms. It tries to define the terms. It like pokes you in the side and says, hey, remember, you're not a whole person. Hey, remember, that person is a jerk. Hey, remember, you've got something to prove here. Hey, remember. But actually, what the ego is telling you to do is to forget. It's telling you to forget who you really are. It's telling you to forget love, real love, divine love, complete love, unifying love. It's telling you to forget your wholeness. It's telling you to forget your capacity to heal. It's telling you, and it's talking you into it, and you're doing it. We all do, every single one of us. The ego, when it's trying to define the terms of our surrender, tries to turn that surrender into its own benefit. And then we sit idly by thinking, oh no, I did my work on my ego years ago. This can't be that. No. Yes, it can. The ego has many layers, many levels, and many disguises that it wears. Sometimes that disguise is the disguise of an angry person, a humble person, a spiritual person. How can spirituality be a disguise for the ego when it's not coming from a place of truth, when it's not coming from a place of humility? I just keep using that word humility because I really feel like it's looked at like a 4-letter word. Humility. Humility means that you acknowledge that it's not about you. It's not about you, not really. I mean, your life is about you, sure, but not the way you think, maybe. It's not about what you can collect. It's not about what you can acquire. It's not about the plans you can make for a great retirement or the amount of hell you can cast over yourself for a troubled past. Your life is about the real you. Your life is about the inner you, the true you, the you that is Sat Chit Ananda, truth, consciousness, and bliss. The you that is not concerned with being seen. The you that is not concerned with not being seen. The you that is not concerned with getting your way. The you that is not concerned. The you that is not motivated out of greed, jealousy, fear. The you that only sees what needs to be done and does it because it is the right thing to do, the compassionate thing to do, the healing thing to do. But the ego, as the complicating factor says, humility is a bad, bad word. It is a bad word. And you should not be humble because, you're special. You should show everybody how special you are. And if they don't want to see how special you are, then you should tell them over and over again. You should try to remind them as often as possible. Because they should know. They should know. And when you're listening to that, and as I'm saying this, and I'm listening to this, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, that person is suffering so much. Because their entire identity depends upon other people seeing them, other people who are suffering too, other people who have no idea what to look for in a person in order to see the essence of the real person, other people who are trespassing in the past and trying to force the future, who are also not present in the moment. These are the people that you want to see you. These are the people that on a day-to-day basis, maybe we try to manipulate or get their attention somehow, snap the fingers, make the action, have the reaction, blow it up. so that they can have a look at us and say, in a moment of our own crazy, that we're special, that we've got it together, that we're obviously peaceful, we're obviously insightful, intelligent, intellectual, nurturing, caring, and compassionate, because we can be passive aggressive better than they can, because we can be angry and still appear to keep it under control. You see, this is the way the ego works, right? This is what the ego does. It totally messes us up, just totally messes with us. And it makes us, it brings us to a place of being lost. We're like, I want to be compassionate, but I can't get over this anger. So many people come to me and say that. So many people, they message me and they're like, Sudha, I'm having these problems. I really, I've done so much work on compassion, but I just find that I'm angry all the time. I'm like, then you're not done with your work. Oh no, Swamini, I think I am done with my work. I've done it. Like, no, you're still experiencing the symptom. If you're experiencing the symptom, then you're not done with the work yet. The healing hasn't happened. It's still in process. Oh, but I feel so much better than I used to. Yeah, but you still have discontent and regret and resentment and all whatever else is coming up to the surface. So your work is not done. And instead of saying, oh, no, I've been doing my work. I'm done with my work. It's good. It's good. Let that go, because whatever work you did yesterday. Today's full of a whole boatload more. A whole another crate of files piled onto your desk that you have to go through and recognize and acknowledge and accept and resolve. And it's okay. I know it can sound kind of like, oh, doesn't it ever end? And, you don't really want it to end yet, because when it ends, that kind of means that you're not in the physical body anymore. So we're very attached to life. Let's hope we have lots of work, but that we do it. Let's hope that we have so many crates of files to go through to resolve, but that we look at them and we are inspired by them. That whatever problems come our way, whatever experiences are presented to us, that instead of holding on to ideas about who we should be, that we're able to surrender into who we are, and that the power of who we are brings us into a place where we can do the necessary work and not be attached to how much of it there is or isn't to be done. Hopefully that makes sense. So letting go is not about throwing out. Letting go is not about beating down. I'm so sorry for the coughing today. I had a bit of the flu for a few days, and a little bit of the breathing issue is still with me. So trying to keep it to a minimum. Thank you for your patience on that. And thank you all so much for your well wishes, because so many beautiful messages came through in so many modalities, whether it was through Facebook or email or just messages sent through other people. Thank you all so much, because your loving, caring, healing messages really were supportive. And I appreciate you for that. So thank you. So letting go, again, not about throwing away, not about beating down. It is about freedom. Letting go is about freedom. But what the heck is freedom? What is freedom? Well, there's a lot of different perspectives on freedom. Freedom to know oneself. Freedom to be oneself. Freedom to live a life of your own making, as much as that can be, without worrying about having that life satisfy other people's wants. Freedom to express oneself in a creative manner. Freedom to be nonviolent, non-harmful. Freedom to be present for people. Freedom to be an empty vessel. To be an empty vessel. Patabi Joyce said, practice, 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 and all is coming. This idea of letting go is about opening up space within ourselves to receive wisdom. The practice that Patabi Joyce talked about could be the physical practice of postures in the yoga asana. It could be the practice of chanting or praying, the practice of service to those in need, going to church or temple. So many different ways to practice. But the more that you surrender into the practice and allow the practice to become your current moment rather than the past or something that you'll plan for next Thursday, when you allow your practice to be the basis of your presence in this moment, then what comes to you is wisdom. And wisdom is the necessary ingredient for surrender. And wisdom is the necessary ingredient for freedom. Marcel Proust says, "We do not receive freedom. We must discover it for ourselves. After a journey through the wilderness, which no one else can make for us, which no one else can spare us from. For our wisdom is the point of view from which we come at last to regard the world." Wisdom. So, let's see if we could bring this forward. Say, letting go. We have a misconception that letting go is throwing things away, beating things down, hiding things, and deleting things. But we now come to understand that letting go is not at all about that. Letting go is actually an act of surrender that brings us into the current moment. It is an act of surrender that brings us into the now and empowers us to stop trespassing into the past and to stop projecting into the future in ways that are unhealthy and unnecessary. By letting go and by working diligently day in and day out at letting go, we have to recognize the ill state of the ego and how the ego tricks us into thinking that we've done more work than we actually have. And then we need to become humble about that so that we don't judge ourselves critically. And just accept the fact that the ego is going to do this because it's what it does. It's just really good at it. And instead, stay focused on your practice. Whatever your practice might be, whether it's prayer or postures or breathing or service, staying present in that service as a way of anchoring you into this present moment. And by doing so, wisdom unfolds from within and without. Wisdom unfolds. It arrives like a wave. And when we are constantly investing in the moment, in the spiritual practice of the moment, then we are not getting lost in other patterns. And we can begin to see the areas in our own life where our egoic tendencies have harmed us or harmed others. And that allows us to experience resiliency, resolution, and a form of reconciliation with ourselves, with who we really are. That takes a little bit of the power away from the ego and places it into the heart. And in that moment, we can recognize that everything is temporary and it's okay. I will be fully present to what is so that I can know this, be with this, embrace this, whatever this is. And it may have pleasure and it may have pain and it may drive my emotions in a chaotic fashion. But I will be present to it. Because in a state of humility, I understand that I own nothing, and no one owes me anything. I'm simply here to serve. I'm simply here to serve and to learn and to be. And I'm here to remember. I'm here to remember who I really am. And so in this moment, now we can say, once we come to this place where we recognize that we are here to remember who we really are, now we can open our practice either in ways that empower a deeper surrender, because that's what we're ready for. We're ready to really let go now. We're ready to really let go. We're going to let go of the grudges. We're no longer going to talk about our spouse as if they weren't an important person, or as if they weren't a person, period. We're no longer going to look at strangers and make assumptions about them because of what we've been told by other people. We're no longer going to take other people's word for things. We're going to recognize now that whatever comes our way is not for anyone else but us. And we're going to look at that and allow that to empower compassion within our interactions. Allow that to bring about a sense of equanimity so that our emotions are more balanced. The step forward, the way to move forward, is by not expressing the past. Again, the healthiest way to move forward is by not expressing the past. Again. If you look at your life and you find that you have a lot of problems, a lot of relational disruption, a lot of coming and going, a lot of dissatisfaction, what you might find is that is because you are trying to place today's moment into the past context, and it doesn't fit there. That's like trying to put the tree back into the acorn. You can't do it. Stop trying to put the tree into the acorn and just appreciate the tree. There'll be more acorns. There are more seeds every day and every moment. Taking a moment to just think about now where in your life it is that you would like to let go. Where in your life you would like to have a right relationship. Because really, that's what letting go is about. Letting go is saying, you know what, my ego has me in a grip here, and so I'm going to loosen that grip up a little bit so that I can actually investigate what right relationship here might be. I'd like to read to you a passage from the Katha Upanishad, a very sacred text from Hinduism. Beyond the senses are the objects. Beyond the objects is the mind. Beyond the mind, the intellect. Beyond the intellect, the Atman. Beyond the Atman, the non-manifest. Beyond the non-manifest, the spirit. Beyond the spirit, there is nothing. This is the end. Pure awareness. Such a beautiful Upanishad. Freedom is pure awareness. But in order to come to the space of freedom, of pure awareness, we must move through the sense objects, move through the mind, through the intellect. We must even move through ideas of the Atman and the non-manifest. And we must even, at some point in time, surrender our ideas about the spirit. Because whenever we put something into words and ideas and concepts, we limit it greatly. We actually steal its freedom to express what it actually is. So we have quite a journey that we are living day in and day out. Quite a journey. One that begins from a space of freedom, and one that resolves itself back into that freedom. But the journey is full of obstacles, cause and effect. The journey is full of attachments, misunderstandings, resolutions. But don't forget that every time you resolve something, you open up a space within yourself. And if you're not thoughtful and fill that space with something that is going to further amplify your surrender, then your ego will fill that space with nonsense, with chatter, 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 chatter. For every time that you do your practice, for every time that you commit yourself to being present for that, you open up a little space within yourself, a little niche. And if you're not careful, the ego will fill it up with more stories, more assumptions, more faulty explanations. So you got to be mindful and diligent and keep providing yourself reminders. So what could you fill the space up with? Mantra. Oh, mantra, prayer is so powerful, so powerful. Nobody even has to know you're doing it, you know? So because I'm yogi, I will, use my mantras in order to fill that space. And as I'm walking through my day, I'll just be constantly chanting to myself, Om Namah Shivaya, or Om Shri Durgaye Namaha, Om Vakratunda Mahakaya, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I'll just keep chanting to myself. And when I find that I'm in a moment where things are difficult, a conversation is going awry, then I will stay present in the conversation, but I will also begin chanting to myself in order to bring about a sense of space where I can hold this person in the light of love and in the light of peace and in the light of acceptance, because that person is not here to serve me. I am here to serve that person. And if I am caught up in my egoic nonsense, then I cannot serve them. And if you are on a spiritual path knowingly, we all are. Some of us just don't know it yet. But if you are knowingly on your spiritual path, then that is what you are striving toward. That is what you are looking to. You are looking to serve always more purely and with less and less concern for what you will get out of it. And I think this is really kind of what's wrong in a lot of the spiritual world today. And this won't be a popular statement, but I'm beyond worrying about that in this moment. Everything is money. There's too much about money. There's just too much. $25 yoga classes, gong baths for $75. I mean, come on, people. taking this beautiful concept of healing and making it inaccessible to people who can't afford it. Oh, no, we say, we say that it's $75, but a person can always come and ask for a scholarship. And I wonder what an individual goes through when they have to ask for that, when it's not just offered. I wonder what kind of hoops they have to jump through in their own ego. And it's okay. I mean, it's just part of life, and they're going to jump through hoops no matter whether it's your hoops or somebody else's. We just all do. But I guess I'm just concerned and thinking that if a person states that they are providing spiritually based services, then those spiritually based services should be provided. And the concern shouldn't be for the money. The concern should be only for the service. And if there is a benefit to be had, then it will be had, because the universe will see to it. If there is a benefit to be had, and if someone is to be able to provide, then they will, because they have appreciation and the means. But we should never say to one person, "Oh my goodness, I'm so happy to see you. Here's your bill." And say to another person, "Oh, I'd really like to see you, but you can't afford it." As a spiritualist, we should see all indiscriminately. That's our responsibility. Because to further segregate people and to deny them on the basis of something as shallow as money is to make spirituality a commodity. And that would be, and is, such an unfortunate turn of events. I don't even know what to call it. I'm at a loss for words right now, if you can believe it. Wow. Let's all stop making it about money. Let's make it about healing, because you know what happens when people heal? They're generous. And they'll give you what they can. They'll bring you a pie. They'll bring you pajamas. They'll bring you love. That's what you want, right? That's why you do the things you do. That's why you hold the space you hold. Because you want to empower love. Well, there you go. Let people meet you with their generosity. They will. They will meet you in ways that will shock you with such beautiful grace that will re-enliven your spirit and that will deepen your faith. But first you have to let go. So it all comes back to letting go. Now, there is a beautiful statement in the Bhagavad Gita about the power of letting go. Krishna, talking to Arjuna, states to him, "Let go. Don't cling to the fruits of your actions. Live your life and be unattached to what happens. Do this, and you will find real freedom." I'll read that one more time. Let go. Don't cling to the fruits of your actions. Live your life and be unattached to what happens. Do this, and you will find real freedom. So on that note, that ends our session today. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Spiritual Journey with Swamini Shraddhananda. This is WXAC 91.3 FM in Reading, Pennsylvania. You can check it out on Facebook as well. You can look for Spiritual Journey with Swamini, and you'll find my Facebook page. And I do post these episodes up there, as well as some other wonderfully delightful information. I hope you found today's talk supportive, and please know that I'm sending you so many blessings and so much love. May we all let go. May we all jump out of the plane, as it were, and enjoy the fresh wind in our face and the freedom that comes with that letting go. All right. Namaste.